Hey everyone, Miss White here, and I want to discuss some of the ways that we can mark up the text. First thing you might be wondering is why do we need to mark up the text? Really, there are a bazillion reasons, and but four of them, as we can see here, is that sometimes we need a bit of a boost in helping us to remember. And helping us to remember maybe for a test or for an upcoming book club or literature circle or for just remembering it to bring it to the floor for some reason. And so this is a great way. Maybe you want to remember something to share with a friend. All of these are great reasons to mark up. That alone is just a great reason to mark up the text. Another reason that is a fabulous reason to mark up the text is on questions when we need to respond and it says respond using evidence or respond with evidence or using evidence from the text. Whenever you see the word evidence, that means we really should be reading this text very closely and carefully, and we want to make sure that we know what information might be beneficial and how we are going to respond to it. Another thing that might help us with marking up the text is just to understand it better. Sometimes texts can be very complicated and confusing, and if we mark words we don't know and write our thoughts in the margins, we might be able to figure out what they're talking about as we go. And finally, the last one I want to talk about today is it helps you to be an active learner. And in order to be an active learner, you need to be thinking and working and focusing on the text and making sure that you're understanding what you're reading and paying attention to what you're reading. So we want to help ourselves to actively engage during the reading process. So there are a lot of ways we can mark it up, and it's important to remember that if it's my own book or it's just a copy of a paper or usually on test books, we can write right on the text. We can highlight, we can underline, we can box things, whatever. We can usually also do that if it's like on a Google Doc. Maybe we don't own the rights to do that, but we can always make a copy of it. There are a lot of ways that we can mark up our text doing that. However, if it's a book from the library or like a school book, a textbook, or all those kinds of things, then you can't write in it. But you could take notes, the same thinking notes, do the same process on a separate sheet of paper next to it. Or you could use Post-it notes and stick them on the pages. And you can put the same things on the Post-it notes that you would normally put on the actual text. A couple things that we can do while we're marking the text. We could draw a box. We can also highlight a word. And it can be the same thing, something we know or don't know or whatever. Another thing we can do is underline important ideas or facts. In addition to underlining, we can write in the margin. We can show our thinking voice. Remember, we have our reading and our thinking voice. And our thinking voice helps us to understand what it says. So some of our thinking that we might have could be a question, a concern, an agreement, a disagreement. Maybe even something that you've had happen that's very similar. There are so many things that could pop up in our thinking voice. Maybe it's a question that maybe you don't have, but maybe it's one somebody else would be wondering about in for a discussion group. Or maybe it's something you think that'll be important to know on the test. These are all great things that you can write down in the margins. Another thing you can do when you're taking notes is just use quick shortcut writing. For example, you might put an exclamation point for something important, or an agreement or disagreement. Something that stands out. We might put a star for a fact you need to know or something interesting. Might put a question mark for something I don't know. Maybe you're confused or don't understand. And we might even mark something that's funny, something that made us laugh or chuckle. You can always come up with your own shortcut codes as well. You don't have to just use the ones I give you, but you can come up with your own as long as you're consistent and know what they mean. Finally, you can draw arrows. Maybe underlining ideas. Actually, I'm just going to do it. For example, you could say underlining ideas is one way to do the same thing that we could do here. These could be the same. These could overlap. You might do some of those for both of those, and you can draw arrows to make connections within the same text, something that connects to itself in the text. Okay, so I want to go through this article with you and show you how I might mark the text. This article is called Laundry Around the World. Clothes get cleaned in many different ways. Well, we know by the subtitle that it's going to talk about a lot of different ways that people do laundry. So I'm actually going to make a list, and I want to make a list of ways people do laundry. So let's make that list. Ways to do laundry. Well, I already know one way, and one way is just using a washing machine. Let's see what else comes up. Everyone wears clothes, but some people wear a few clothes, and some people wear a lot of clothes. Well, that first makes me think, well, I hope everybody wears some clothes, and it kind of amused me to see that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put LOL. Everyone wears clothes. And I know there are some tribes and different things where people wear less clothes than others, but for the most part, we all wear clothes. Some clothes are for playing around and getting dirty, and some clothes are fancy for more formal occasions. I've seen this, and I'm going to change colors just so it's easier to mark. This, I've had these growing up. I had play clothes and like church or school clothes. Even though everyone wears some form of clothing, everyone gets their clothes clean in very different ways, depending on their living conditions. So if you're rich or poor, you know what, that seems really important. So I'm actually going to go ahead and underline that as well. Just because people live in the same country doesn't mean they all clean their clothes the same way. Some people have washing machines in their home. Some people so that's one way. Some people take their clothes to the cleaners. Oh, so here's another way. Take clothes to cleaners. And pay someone else to wash their clothes. Some people wash their clothes in a pan or tub of water, while others wash their clothes in a stream or lake. So a tub of water. And I actually have a connection that I can make here. When I was in China, I saw people washing their clothes using a washing machine, but they'd use it by hand. It was really a different experience. So they had the washing machine, so they had a tube so the drain would go into the street, and they'd put their clothes into the washing machine and pour like a thing of water on it, and then they'd move the agitator inside themselves, like manually, because they didn't have electricity to run it. So they'd run it, like agitate it with their hands, and then they'd still wring it all up. So they used that like a tub or water. And you know what? I'm actually going to take that down here and put, or a combination. Since water is needed to get clothes clean, they must get dry. Some people use a large dryer. Some people hang their clothes on a line and let the clothes dry naturally. So there's two ways so that they can do it. First dryer or hang the clothes. And you know what? I've seen people here in the United States do that, and it's like by choice. They have a dryer and then they want to hang them up to dry themselves. And you know what? That's fine. There's no right or wrong way to clean clothes. Everyone has laundry, but everyone has a different system for getting clothes clean. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this, and then I'm actually going to star it. That's a cool phrase. You know, in this short essay thing, this short explanation, I didn't have very many words I didn't know. They were pretty clear. However, if I had a word that I didn't know, I very easily could have used the highlighter, and I could have highlighted words I didn't know, or I could have boxed them. It just so happened that in this specific thing, I knew them all, and that's okay. Sometimes we will use all the different tools, and sometimes we'll only use some of them. The key is to make sure that you know what works best for you. Okay, hope that helped. Talk to you later.